Order.
Massi Dutzenajon, Massi. It's an honor to pray for all the ministers today, for you to all have a very safe day today and throughout the weekend with your family and your friends wherever you go on the weekend. Just like to say Massi. Eda Dutzene sene witsine zona na tia sene jona ha go on sida say Massi Dutzene jona na tanafe. Et tau misate chu doesn't chu misit a hotini day. Et tau misate chu doesn't chu misit a hotini day. Et tau misate chu doesn't chu misit a hotini day. Masi noti dutsane ajon cloud dichon klezete. Dia jo kave se jona rajon get waketekini aon da. Se dutsane ajon rajon go get da se nizio jo go tsahti. Go ze natse a se nizi go hego o. Go din dau kitsa tsana ke jitsa ke go din te ke tin si seni si go ti go tse go ja shu khani go tsa ti go tse ke shu ami khani go tene ki li shu seni si go tsa ti seni si tu tsene na go o se a jon hlaute na na ta ke feda a ji a jon ne chakwane o si seni si go tsa ti e ji a se masine fesene wet sine da se go tena tsa ti et a tu tsene a jon se tatsona na ta tia Se tajak efeneda nizite gaudejak enege gildatun shikakon denide medatene taude zenta dutene genatinti ami ulhine gotsisik nafidi gedano hinena kananendi ulhine aini venjana genidi ulhine chayi o anele hoti kandenide ne zambiti gahitle de gaidini notine zegenave ani gotse tasenoti no kaini venotine chofetanila Ega Marie Muna got it there, Sonic and Icona Gena Dainty. Good in Clezek, Sazek, Selon Univernesit, Akagudin, de Sea Josia Massa Dutene, Senezik, I got a Senezia Milhatake, Tike, Senezia, Cloud got anenti. I don't know hot in case Senezio go here, any day Massia. Massi said Hasenets and that I tida say Massi. A town is at the chew, doesn't chew, Mizit, Hotini day. A taum is at a chew doesn't chew misit a hotini day. A taum is at a chew doesn't chew misit a hotini day. Masi, I don't need to know or masi.
Minister of Housing. Kaya okakte tunatsami tamani taitsamani otatto Canada elitaki akavallialama okiortartamiutayuni sib ila immikuulingan nuarningin marchuangun tilligu taana Canada okammakukita angayuqaangan sasartisilaangan utaami tamanna sapumiyautsiarunnaqa qullugu okiortartoq taima makansipaale highway ammalut hausta taana ommaqutiliorvik asingillu tamakkua pilereeriauniartu angiyuutiulutlu kamagiyauniarmata pipallerpallianingani makansipaale highway tamanna pipaallerputiiqqarpalliangman avatimiutano qaujissartaunermut tamakkua avatimiuta pianik pallialersuta qaujissartauninga ammalumeungunmi natsaagavmakkuнгin ammalutta allais iman angiqatigiguartiqalaarmata nutaamik tamakkuninga pilereertigigamalluti tamatam mixaano 18 maanguin naqartauim ammalutta qatamakatigiqqaqattaarsamallutta nunalerigikkuni imalerigikkuniitlu tamakkua akawasivaalertitaavalliajunnaqullugit avatmiutait tamaani nunatsiarmi taakwa pilereertigijarpulu nunaqaqqaarsimayugaavamakkungini reglimilu saatuumilu inubingmilu katamakataqartarsimalluti pivalliatitauniartu pijutigillugin uqaartii tamakkua ukiortartamakiinautiksautaqarnaq sapumminerlu tamanna pivalliatitaunginnarman tamaani nunatsiarmi kanatamilu tagvani aqaagumi atortami kliitsuo gavamakungin tarunnaiplu allaqtingin ammalunnatsami gavamakungin angaqatigiguta qalarmata ataliuqatigillutik sivulertiuniartor taman sivummuktauниartu tamanna pileraissapijjutigillugu ammalutta ilitaarsisimallуtik tamakkuninga gavamakkunni pequyaliuqattarninginnuut ammaluttau gava nunaqaqqaarsimayu gavamakkugiyangi tamakkua kamagi ila pilereqatigiyauqattarsutik taimana akausivalertataulinnaqulu tamanna ikayuqutauqattartu ammanutau kingullerpaami uqarti Charleston hydro expansiongunaqartaujoq soorlu aangilligiartauniarma salamatsiartukku qammaqutaqarviujunnaqullugu taimana ilavannu nunaliujun taimana uumaqulaqatsiarunnaqulugit tamanna pilereariauniartu nunaqaqqaarsimayun kattimiqutiginnu kamagiyauqatauluni taqqiulortami ataliuruteqalarummata ikayurtuillutik tamanna pigiartaujinnaqullugu Charleston nunaqartauja qammaqutiqarviuniartu imakku ammalu atautikkut parnauteqarlutik pequyaksauniartuni ammaluttao akuniujukku tamanna kamagiyautsiarunnaqullugu taakkua pianikpata nunaqaqqaarsimayukka makkogi angeqatigiyuute simaqqatigiyarput gavamatoqakkullu taimana nutaam pilereaqarunnarniarput pilereqatigillutik tamakkuninga tamakkua pilereaqiauniartu pequtersuanguniarmata akuniujukku uqiortartami immikuulernermu kiinavaliornermullu pijjutigiyauniarmata silo asiterpallianinganullu taakkua pilereariauvalliavu pilereqatigiyarpullu katimaqqatigiyaqattarniarpu nunallinni avittorsimayunilu nunaqaqqaarsimayu kaammakkungillu pinasuorusitamaa taimanna ikayuqqattautaqattarluti ammaluttau taimanna pigiaqutigiyauniarluni maannauniartami sivuniksauniartami taimannalu nunatsiami sangilertitauvalliajunnaqqullugu taimaaktitu nunaligijaujutitu ukiortartami ammalu kanatamo ilagijautsaarunnaqulluttaa qoyannami oqarti qoyannami minister pequtersualernermut minister oqausingit aaniaqarnangittulernermu minister oqarti ippaksartaanna kiinavana qavisartersua saqqalitsilaarma tamakkua sorusi ilagiillu miksaana pijjutigilugunatsiarmi unikkaa taakku oqoosiqarmata nutaqqat ilagiillu pilereariauningit imanna ikayuqattaqattigu sappumeqattaqattigu nutaqqan makkuktulu ilagiillu taimanna pilereariauvalliajut imanna ikayuqtautsiarunnaqullugi qanukkannaq taimanna pijjutikillugu taakkua nutaqqat ikayuqtaunersaugia qarmata makkuktullu imanna isorriaatsiarunnaqullugi ilagijautsiarunnaqullugiillu ilequsingillu nunalingillu nutaqqat amma ilagiiktuleriikku tamakku aksoruutiginnarpaarigattigu kammakkuulluta isamaliuqutaqareqaratta ullutamaa tamanna pilereariautsiarunnaqullugu uluqeaq naqtamiittaaligiaqarningi kamagijautsiariaqarningillu nutaqqan kamatsiariaqarattigu taimanna uqaussaqarumajunga tamanna uqaussaqakkanilaunginniingani taakku iqqanaajartigijaujut nutaqaleriji ilagiittuleriikkullu taimanna pileriaqaqattarmata aksoruutiqarluting ammalutta amisunik pileriaqsaqaqattarlutik tuavernartuuqattarlutiklu taimanna aksoruutiqaqattarmata pileriatuukaluartillugu tamakkua taimanna uqatsiaarumajunga nutaqalerana ilagiiktulerana tamakkua qaujimatsiaqattigu tabakkua unikkaa pijjutiqarmata immikuulingattuinnangittuni eqqanaajartinni pitsianginningi aksoruutiqallaqaqattarmata tamakkuninga pilerearigi aqartaminni tamakkua qaujijausimayu unikkaami taimanna tusalaortavut katamayiuyunu malagaliortikkunni uqausaqiauqattarman ilagiinnaqqaarsimayu kavammakkungi kamayiuqattartullu taimanna pivaallequtigijaapallialerma aqaaguusimalertami ammaluttaa qaujimalluta pimmaqiuyussuli pilereariaugiaqarniarmata saataujuksaaugiaqarniittannullu ammalu atautsiku uqarti pimmaqiunga qaujimagiaqaratta nutaqalerni ilagiiktuleriniartamanna pigiaqutiqarsamangmata nutaami uktuutikijaujunnartor tamakkua ikayuqattaqatta anqaqatigigutikku akalertugaungittunik pileri yuksaugilartunik Taimanda aksoong nalualaungin ningani tamakko angakatigay taujo ilagid sangilapalat tiga suaqattigu uluqanangittumi piliraqattaqullugi sanginaqaqullugiillu aayuqqaaqiyaw tamakko kamagiyaqqaarninginnunu taqqaning ilagiillu avittortautaaliyunnaqullugi tamanna pitsutigillugu oqaarti nunatsiagavamakkungissi tamakko Kavamakkunni kinauyaqutingini qaujissarterjual atulequyilaarmata taimanna pileritsiare qarattigu kiukkautigeqattaarlutallu tamakkuninga pileriaqiyaugiaqartumin pitsiarasuarluta tuavernaluangittami kamatsiarasorluta tamanna unikkaariyu pigiaqutigina saaliniartavun akausivaallertitaujunnaqullugit tamakkuanu taqqalerine makkuttulerine ilagiittulernerlu parnanksamatsiarluta tamakkualu nutaangortitautsiarsamalutik maligain gavmatoqakkun maligangi maliglugit taimanna qaujimatsiarlutalu tamakkuninga pileritsiaqattartuning tamakkua pileriaqiyaujut kiinauni qausarterjua uqauserilaortangi pileriaqiyauvagiersimalermata akaujukkulu sanginertitaulertitauniarmata tukisigiaqutiillu ikajornermu parnautautsiaqattarluti ismaliortautsiaqattarlutiklu taimanna pileriqatigiitsiarluta nunaqaqqaarsamajukkavmakkonginnik kamitsiarunnaqulutalu taimanna aksoruutiqarnertamatuwa miksaarnut pileritsiaartaqan qiaqarniaqatta malikaqatsiarlutiklu amanu oqarti taakkua qaaqissartijuu qauserissimayangin qimaguyautiaqannarniartu pilerivallianittini tamatua miksaanut nutaangortitauqattarlutillu parnautigiyaavallaajut taakkua katamiñiqalaallu qimaquqattarningi tamakkuninga qauyimavugu ilagiktuleriner ammalun taqqaleriner unikkaariyausamayu maliklugit taimanna kamagigia kamitsiariaqaqatta tamakkuninga tiguariauqattartuti ammaluttao saataujuksautiaqattarluta pileqartigiitsiarluta piluartuminnaqaqqaarsamayugavmakku ilagilugin ammaluttao taimanna kamagiaqatsiarluta nutaqqani ilagiktunniklu tamanna pileriaqiyaujuq taimanna soorluka sanginaqariaqarniarpugut ammaluttao ikajorinnaqattarlugi iqqanaajarti tamatuminga pileriaqarninginni ullutamaat sangilertipaallertitaulunnilu nutaqqalerani ilagiittulerani taimanna pileriaqiautsiaqattarunnaqullugut ilagitaakkua piitsaratsiaqattarlugit pileritsiaqattarlutalu taakkua nutaqqa makuktulunnatsiarmi uluqaanartamiittaaliqullugi ikajortauqullugi ammalu perursаттautsiarunnaqullugi ilamini peqateqarlutik tamanna ismaliuqutigiinnaqattarniarpavut tamanna pivaallerutaayu pijjutigillugu akausivaаллертиgasugniartavu qanuiliuqiaqarniarmangaatta aqquyanimiuqarti Qinami minister aniaqarnangittunernermu inulernermullu ministerit uqausingit sivulerti uqarti uqarumayungataana katamayigu heerunuat matagpanijaangittu ullumi Qinami ministerit uqausingit katamayit uqausingit katamayiujuq Range Lake Mut Qinami uqarti 2014 ngulaaqtamitaakku ilagiittulerajikku qaissartausimangmata pingassuartarlutik tamakkuninga akaungiliuqutigiyaujunni qaujivaallequtauqattarmata tamakkuananatsiami nutaqqat taimanna naniyaulaortu tamakkua imanna qaujimayautsiarmata pitsiartauqattanginninginnu tamakkua nutaqqat savaniuarpusan tamakkua qaujissaqutausimayut soorlu kamagiyautsiaqattangimmata taima 91% gijanginni kamagiyautsiaqattanginnersarmatago Amalo tuutauqiyauju tamakkua nunaqaqaarsimayu nutaqqa pisimaliauqattartu kamagiyauqattartu kavamakkunnu taimanna neriugilaungikkaluaqakku taimannaalu akaungiliuqutiqalaortimaninginni pileritsiariaqarmata tamakkua aaniaqarnangittulerajikku inulerajikkullu nutaqqani ilagiinniklu ammaluttau taana minissa uqatsiaqattariaqarma qanuiliuqutiqarmangaami taimanna katimañiqalaanu unikkaaliulauma taana ministauyu nunatsiakavamakkungi taimanna kamatsiaqattanginninginna nunaqaqqaarsimajuk soorlu sorusikkunginni taakkua nuta ila solo katuin nakate piligillata kattangin ningin no kausakayaw sa mga mata kausisakta suakayaw yunot taiman nalo amalutta kausisakatak sa iman na ito kamagayaw tsaka kang ningin minister ukakattang man iman na solo papataw yuyang ningin nun pwede takak sa mga mata ukak sa maluti nun na tsaka pamakong ilitak sa mga mata tako no takalakaya ilagay ito lakaniyaklo kamagayaw tsaka ningin nun taiman na pilirayaw tsaka kaluak sa naitana minister akit tawe kakto na akit sa makatangin man amaro taiman na pidyo tigil takwa ako ni kandaw to taiman na kababala kay ko loni taiman na sa tao yung sawi akang man tamak ko ni nga ulo ka anak tamito ni nunat siya may kamak ko gino taman na namang minister ta na persong na yakta ka tamat mamigsa na ulumig ka na katamayit o kausingit Jalo na yung kaya naman lagalaw kaya naman yung kakte tamak ko ilagay ko lagay ko ko unik ka ako tawla ko kaya sakta joano taiman na kapamak ko no unik ka kaya si malaw maikpag sa ukaw sa kaya tilo inulagay ko so lagay ko katim ila minister ukak ko na minister sa taiman na minister ukakatang mat taiman na kamat siya katangin mag-o okay taktamito yun tan atwaga nepidyo ta kangin man eman na ulo ka anak tamin na utang man taiman na so lupit siya katangin nga kawin yaw siya mang man kawin sakter jo kawin sa lauk tilugit tan na minister pilagay kakse mang man 940 ulo ni kamagaya kakse magalang matamag ko ni nga nutakani ilaging niklo taiman na solo kamat siya katangin mapit siya katangin malo tamag ko ni nga pilagay kaktaminig ukiyo nuto ila ikakano 24 kamat siya kaluwak so ni tamag ko kamatwin naktaw katang mata ilan ni code 71% tako kawya saktaw si mayong maligatigod solo pitsiyangin ningin no kawya si mang mata 158 ulo pitsutigid luga kawya saktaw si malone 512 nguyul lune ulo tamak ko ano takat puigok taw siya makakatang mata amarot taw kawya saktaw siya kataka kaksutik kita mga walawak taw amarot taw tamak ko ilik ko sila kanaktaw taman na kamagiyaw siya katangin man nari ay po sa nutakat solo no nakakasama yung mata tamak ko nga kawya kaya katangin man no nakakasama yung gamag ko nga kamat siya kakaluang namod tamak ko 1/3 kayang nutakan pintakan pilari katak iman na pilari sa kaluang katang mata tamang meruta pilari katang pilari katang sutiglo nego taiman na iliyongin nakatama akaw gunne kataman minister ulo nita na pilari siya kaluang mat solo pilari minig solo kay magaya kangiman taman na pidyo tigilo taiman na namang ito nes 2014 ulaw tuming 2018 melo amalo 2026 may pitcher si manginingin ukaw sa kayo katak si mang mata kaway sa terjoanon taima China katir taksyon ay unik ka katak si mang man tamag ko akik si man nakaktangin akik sok tawlok si mangin mata ukakti taman na ayaw tikiyaw tuwin na kaya kakon na yung man iman na ulo kaya naktumilang man taman na isumadlo nga lo taman na so lo ilangin na minister kawin may nakatang man pilagaya kaktamin ni pilagaya kakatangin man 904 days na so lo minister si madlo na kanuiliok si mangin man kanulugtat sa iman na iliok aluak to nga ala katakaluak sa ni taman na iliok katangin man tusa katak si magatta Kingulat pa ako na yakta may luwakaw sa kigamadlo sa tao yung sawe akang matan na minister ikpag sa ukalaw makamagaya kang niraksyon ni kanok yung kakalata mga ataman na apik ko tingin na yakta ka kaya na may ukakte.
Colleagues, I'm going to say a couple of things here. When you're doing a member statement, remember you got to focus on a few things. Do not make allegations against another member, impute false or hidden motives to another member, using abusive or insulting language of a nature likely to create disorder, speaking disrespectfully of its members. This is a heated issue, and I understand the passion of it, but we need to be respectful in this House. Please remember that. Thank you. Member statements. Member from Deschutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, hearing the Auditor General's report on Child and Family Services was devastating, and it will be an emotional day for many people today. So if you need support, please reach out. Mr. Speaker, 98% of children receiving Child and Family Services in the Northwest Territories are Indigenous. 98%. Indigenous families know the weight of government involvement in their children's lives. The history of residential schools reminds us why the system must be held to the highest standard. That's why this report cuts so deep. Once government steps into the life of a child, there can be no excuse for that child being left vulnerable. A 24-hour assessment exists because a child may be in immediate danger. A 30-day investigation exists because protecting our children is urgent. A monthly check-in exists because once government takes responsibility for a child, they should never feel forgotten. Mr. Speaker, the report found that 1,500 reports of suspected child maltreatment in each of these past 3 years. 33% of these files were not assessed within 24 hours when investigations were required. 71% were not completed within 30 days. One investigation took 512 days. That is a child's life passing by while serious concerns about their safety remain unresolved. For children placed outside the territory, the monthly contact requirement was missed in all but one file. The list goes on. Mr. Speaker, this is the third audit. The department was warned in 2014. It was warned again in 2018. Now here we are again. I need to know this time will be different, not just as a member of this House, but as a mother. Our children deserve to be protected in practice, not only in policy. I will have questions for the Minister at the appropriate time. Must see, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from the Deschutes. Member statements. Member from the Satu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Canada and the Northwest Territories strengthen regulatory coordination. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Crown, Indigenous Relations and Northern Affairs Canada and the Government of the Northwest Territories signed an MOU on regulatory coordination that strengthens collaboration and alignment in their respective regulatory roles in the NWT, in partnership with Indigenous governments and organizations during PDAC last March. Mr. Speaker, the news release quotes working with Indigenous governments and co-management boards to strengthen clarity and consistency in legislation, regulations, guidelines, and policies in areas of shared jurisdiction. Mr. Speaker, secondary to this GNWT and Canada regulatory MOU is recently the Mackenzie Valley Environmental Impact Review Board new regional database and major project review tool. This initiative supports improved coordination across regulatory and assessment processes by bringing together the publicly available environment, socioeconomic, mapping, Satu land use planning corridor, monitoring, and project information into a single platform. Mr. Speaker, it will support stakeholders and proponents as they navigate this large and complex project reviews. Mr. Speaker, advancing this regulatory reform approach to the Mackenzie Valley Highway Environmental Assessment conclusion merging phases 1 and 2 Wrigley to Inuvik by recognizing the engagements, consultations of 2013 to 2018 into an addendum for the July 2026 MVH DAR addendum. We now have one project, one review. Mr. Speaker, this will improve an efficiency approach rather than duplicate cost and time. Later, I will have questions to the appropriate minister. Masi.
Thank you, member from the Satu. Member statements. Member from Great Slate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Koyan iniukti
As the saying goes,
taimattami soulu kamatsiaria qaratta taimana uqaussaqariaqarlutal tamakkuniga aanniartailimaki aqarnarmut ammalo tammartuksauquluortanga uqarsaqarma tamakkua kaansuqaliqtui tamakkua qaujisartaukautiga qattariaqarmata taimakkua kanatamiuta asingilli aanniartuleriyi kamagiyaqaqattarmata soulu qaujisartau qattarluti irlumigu tamakkuninga kaansuqartuning qaujisartau qattarmata nunatsiammi kinguvaqattartillugilli tamaani taakkua 45 ammalo 50% tamakkua nunatsiami irlumigu taimanna kaansuqartu amasungoqqallia tuinnarmata makkuuktu taimanna qaujikkautigiauqattarluti 2025 ngulertumi tamakkua 50 tungaani ukiuqartu taimanna kaansuqalaumata qaujisartaullutik tamanna tuavernartukku kamagijaugiaqartor pileriariaukautiga qattariaqaluarman taimanna amisu soorlu pileriariautiaqattariaqarluarmat tamakkua qaujisartaulluti kaansuqatuinnariaqarlu qarmangata qaujisaqartauqattarluti 45 ni ukiuqalerluti taimanna qaujisartauqattariaqarluarmata taimanna soorlu taakkua lutan takukautiga qattarneq ila takujartortauqattariaqarmat kaansuqartuviniujumi qaujiyuqalaorsamangman tamakkua ila soorlu aaqittausamajut luutaaliarneq tamanna soorlu atortau luaqunniarman luuttaaqaluanginninganuun amigarninginnuut taimanna inuuseriauju tamakkua aaqik ila toqonginnersauqattarunnarmata yukaan taakko uqausarianga Newfoundland-miutaillu asangillu 40 ni ukiuqaleraangata qaujisartauqattarmata 43 mik 40 mun soorlu Manitoba milu taimanna qaujisartauqattarluti ukiuqaleraangata 45 ning April 1 ngulauqtumi tamakkua soorlu qaujisartaujut soorlu qaujisartauqattarluti ajiliortaulluti taimanna uqausariakka pianigumaluarkiangertauguma kuitsaimme malgaleorti angertaugumagaruarma pianigumalluni uqausariaminu aakaartaungimma ativigaakkannerit uqaartiiquyannami katamajuqatikka taimanna kanatamiutauqatikiyarpumalik sariaqaqaluarattiku tamakkuninga kaansoqangikkaluarmangaarmi inuikikkutuinnagit qavisartaukautiga qattaqullugit apersonearpunga minister uvatsiarukkana katamajiit uqausingik katamayuujoq Frame Lake Mid Koyan oqarte takvani pinasuorsiujami isi ikunuma taannak ministaujo tamakkuninga kiinauini atoqattauqattartuni ilinniareekkannernamun tamakkua ilinniartut taimanna pileriaqa ilinniaqumalaarmata soorlu imanna tusartitautsiaraangama qanuingittuugalua atuinnaujoqaraangan imanna soorlu atortaungittuni qaujittuaraangama aaqittauqajau qajarninginnuut qaviannassukautika qattaqaluarama tamakkuninga ilinniareekkannerumajuni silattorsarvingmi tamakkua ilinniartut soorlu ikajortauqattarmata taimanna ilinniarutiksangit sivullerpaa ilinniartauqaarlutik piluartumi tamakkua nunaqaqqaarsamajun taakkua pileriariauju taimanna ilinniarutigiaugiaqaqattarmata taimanna ikajortautsiarlutiklu kajusitsiarlutiklu ilinniaqu tigineartaminu ilinniak kannit oonnaqulluget oqaarti taana naquarliqiyaqa taimannailaarming mattaagu ilinniaqiaqumagaluarluni imanna qauyilauqlunilu taimanna soorlu ilinniaqiaqunnaanginninganun taakua maliklugi taakua nunatsiarmiu tauyut kamagiyautiaqaaqaqaluarmata qauyiyau kautigiqattarlut ilinniaqunnaqaluarmangaata ilinniaqunnangimmangaataluunniin kiinauyaqqaqattangillutiklu ilinniaqiaqutiksauniartuning taakua kautigakki oqauseqiyau tamakku soorlu tamakkuning ilinniaqutigiyauniartami ilinniaqumagaluarsuti pikunnaqattarti taungimmata tamanna pijutigillugu tamakku ilinniarne tamanna kamagiyaugeetsiaria qallunaallu inu soorlu nunaqaqqaarsamayullu tamarmi ajigiitukkuut kamagiyautsiaqattarluting taakku kavmukku taimailingaagi aqarmata minister tamatum miksaanu asajjequgaluartaqa oqa apersorniarpaqalu kuinami katamayu your frame like mit katamayi oqausangit yallornai uangnanganut oqarte qoviasappunga ullumi taqqiulaortumi waikainoatmi soorlu Sharon Young mo tamanna soorlu ajiliortauqattartu tagvunga puuqtautsiamaqilluuting luuttaanu tamanna aaneartulaqinerpijjutigillugu soorlu tagvani yallornaimmiutai tamarmi nunatsiarmiutauyun edmontonliaqattarmata ajiliortauyarlurrutik timiluktaanga puuqtaulluni taimanna akun kiinauilertumaqiaaluuqattarlunilu pingman taimannalo illuilliuqutaqaleqattarlutik tamakkua kikkutuinna soorlu uqtuutigilugu 30 minutes ajiliortauniarpa puuqtausimaluni timiluktaanga tamakkua ilagiiluktaanunatiarmiutauyut taimanna ila akaungiliuqutiqaleqattarmata taimanna pijjutigillugi ilinniaqiaqarluti ilinniangittut pilerigiaqarluti pileringittut qaujisartaujartorlutik ammaluttau pileriaqariaqarluarsuti pileriunni ilaupillaqattarmata ilagiikkuulluta taimanna atorsimakattigu quvianangittummarialuumman nalunangittung atorsimagakku ammalutta nunatsiarmi aullariaqarluta piqattarata taimanna quviagiyaungimma tamainnu kikkuluktaanun taakkua $35.5 million atoqattarlutik gavamakkuut soorlu aullartitaullutik aanearvimungauи kikkuruina qaujissartaujartorlutik taimakkua $2 million soorlu atutuinnarluni taimannaittumi timiluktaa puuqtauruni ajiliuqutim pigunnaqaluarmata taimanna kiinauyat pitaqaluangittuugalua kisanni nunatsiagavmakkungi taimannatitu yuqaammiutauyutitun pitaqareaqaaluarmata timiluktaa puuqtauruni ajiliuqutik saugajartaming amala qilamikuluk taimanna ajiliortau suungummata akuniujukkun ermettaliartaugaangata soorlu akuniunersaar aullarsimagiaqa suungummata kiinauitortumaqialuullunilu ammarutta qaujinnaarutaavu tamanna ikpaksa uqauseqalauqama tusartautsiaqattariaqaratta tamakkua kiinauja atuluartaalinginninginnu atunginnersaugunnaqajarmataugaluar taimanna pitaqalerutta tamaani ukortartami Katamajid oqausangit makansidaltamum alagaliorti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I would like to express my concern regarding the GNWT-UNW Casual Grievance Arbitration Award and the eligibility to receive this award. It has been brought to my attention that constituency members who are eligible and who applied for this award were declined due to being unable to provide proper documentation. Mr. Speaker, prior to 1998, when government offices were being regionalized and moved from communities to the regional centres, much or all documentation that may have supported their application were apparently moved to a new location. Efforts to retrieve this information prior to 1998 have proven to be difficult because it no longer exists. Mr. Speaker, the territorial government is providing this award for a reason, and that reason is to make amends for hiring casuals when any work at that time should have gone to term or intermediate employees available. Mr. Speaker, this uncertainty around missing documents and employee status has created significant confusion among individuals who did work for our government prior to 1998, as missing or incomplete records now make it extremely difficult for them to confirm or prove their employment status during that time. I will have questions for the Minister of Finance at the appropriate time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member from Mackenzie Delta. Member statements. Member from Inuvik-Boot Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you mentioned at the start of this session about the youth parliament that was held here. I was happy to take part in that. I got to be a page and listen to all the youth from each riding give their member statements. It was very enlightening and very informed, and certainly very impressed with the work that was done throughout that youth parliament. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I would like to read into the record and to answer the statement that was given by Mr. Willem Jellema, who was the youth representative for Inuvik-Boot Lake. And with your indulgence, I will give his statement today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have problems in our schools. Social promotion negatively affects both the students achieving and not achieving grade level requirements. Social promotion is the practice of moving students up in grade level based on age rather than on academic achievement. The students who are struggling in classes are moved up rather than addressing the reasons why they're not passing. This means that students failing are more likely to fall into a cycle of failing their classes due to the expectation that failing classes has no consequences. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, when students who are passing have other students that are failing in their classes, their teachers are forced to teach students across various grade levels. Because of this wide range of teaching, they cannot focus on those at grade level. Mr. Speaker, I believe that we should abolish social passing beyond grade 4. By giving standards at an earlier time, students will be forced to commit to their work, and schools will have to address why a student is failing. We need to do better for the futures of our communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Mr. Shalom.
Thank you, member from Inuvik-Boot Lake. Member statements. Member from Mofwee.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on March 2nd, 2026, Housing NWT announced expanded debt forgiveness for legacy mortgages. For homeowners still carrying that debt, it sounded like Christmas had come early, but when the gift arrived, it was wrapped in more government paperwork. I would say that is worse than coal. Mr. Speaker, relief should not be announced like a gift, then handed out like a test. What residents received was a letter explaining the new criteria. To qualify, residents had to prove they met the low-income threshold or that they had already paid enough against the original principal or the assessed value of the home. But why are residents being asked to prove they qualify for relief when much of the information needed should already be in government's hands? Housing NWT should already know the payment history, and government should have access to the assessed property values. Mr. Speaker, these criteria block the people who need the relief the most. We are talking about elders who speak Indigenous languages as their first language, and low-income residents worn down by endless forms and government processes. This approach does not meet our people where they are. It is unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, this raises a bigger question. Why do these criteria exist at all? These mortgages are not new. Housing NWT stopped issuing them in 2007. That means every legacy mortgage is almost 20 years old or older. If someone has been faithfully paying into one of these homes for nearly 20 years, government should not be asking whether they have paid enough. Given the age and condition of these homes, it should be presumed that residents have already paid at least the assessed value. And if a resident has not been able to keep up with payments, that should be enough to recognize they are low income. Mr. Speaker, I seek unanimous consent to conclude my statement.
Member from Mofi. Member from Mofi is seeking unanimous consent to conclude her statement. Hearing no nays, you may conclude your statement.
Mr. Speaker, so who are these criteria really screening out? It seems to me they are screening out the people least able to endure another government processes. Mr. Speaker, if this is truly about relief, then fully commit to relief. Provide blanket forgiveness for legacy mortgages, no string attached. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Mofi. Member statement. Member from Tabacha.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize and congratulate the graduating class of 2026 from Paul William Kaiser High School, who celebrated their convocation ceremony last night. This milestone marks years of hard work, perseverance, and commitment by the students. Graduation is not only a celebration of academic achievement, but also a moment that reflects the strength of family, community, and the many people who help guide these young leaders to this important day. I would like to extend my sincere congratulations to each graduate and acknowledge the pride felt through Fort Smith and the Tabacha constituency. The future of our communities depends on the determination, creativity, and resilience of our youth, and this graduating class has much to be proud of. Mr. Speaker, today's graduates are stepping into a time of growing opportunity in the North. With increased interest and investment in Northern development, whether in infrastructure, resource development, renewable energy, tourism, or Indigenous-led initiatives, there are expanding pathways for young people to build meaningful careers close to home. These opportunities offer not only economic growth, but also the chance for this generation to shape the future of our territory in ways that reflect our values, cultures, and priorities. Mr. Speaker, I also want to recognize and thank the parents, grandparents, guardians, teachers, school staff, coaches, volunteers, and members of the District Education Authority whose support and encouragement help these students succeed. Their dedication continues to make a lasting difference in the lives of our young people. To the graduates of 2026, I encourage you to continue pursuing your goals with confidence, whether your path leads to post-secondary education, trades, employment, entrepreneurship, or service to your community. Know that your community believes in you and is proud of your accomplishments. Congratulations once again to the class of 2026, and I wish each of them continued success in the years ahead. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Tabacha. Member statements. Colleagues, today I'm remembering
Olga Mekama Yagatana, Upigamaldogolo, Orni Maclautana, Orni Inulo Samayo, May 1945, May taken a Fort Liard, May Inusakasani, country name, Kayakatala Samayo, Namotuina. Taiman na ito tilugo awdak sa mga rosan ni Fort Liartan na soro o matimin o kanila ang ulang man utawi nakatakso ni ulo or nita nakawya malawak to pilarit siya katang na mo ikayo katang na mo doon naling na may utaw unit awdak sila ako sa business na ukyo no amison no taxi lakayo ulaw sa nilo pinaso ako sa tama Fort Liartan mo do utakatakso nilo amalutaw anak welek ni kamagiya kakatakso ni British Columbia me no na siya melo tamako Inuktitut na kamagiya siya ako nakulugid anak to lagi giyaw ni aktoning amalo kanutuin na nakaliw katakso ni amalo asangin ni klapila kaya katalaw sa madlo ni teman na ikaili sa na mulo ko giya kalawak sa madlo ni amison ni pingwa katakso ni Fort Liard me amalo ilagi yaw katakso ni British Columbia me no na siya melo amalo tao kadit sa katakso ni tutuin na ni ikaili sang ni miksano so lo anaw ligang na mo asangin negdo o nila amalo pilakajing itay na British Columbia mo katalaw sa mga mata no na siya may pilakakatigay ito rin no na lang na may tao yun Amarta nga yung kakayaw sa ni Folia kuno alla nga yung katamayingin nun pila kaya kakatakso nilo amisun itamak ko nga kay kaktuilo na ikisaktuilo nilo Folia men miyo daw yun siburak tiulo na itaman na ikayo katalaw sa mga man sang nilaktit sibalak sa nilo inong na itaman na kaw yung malaw sa mawaka ikayo katak na nga nalunaling na miyo daw yun saglo katangil sa nilo kanurugta at siya upiriya man pila kaya kakatakso ni kanutuin na isang magiging o kausa kakatakson nilo ilan ni kulo taman na tukitakti siya katakson ni o kausa metigo kanok tau tugiyan ay kamagiyaw katakon na kayang mga taman na ang kakalilaw si madlo na inna to kakawing mi taman na pila kakatakatsya ang nakatakson nilo tamatong miksano taman na o kausa kakatakson nilo kanutuin na isang magiging Okalok sa kakatakso ni Ernie, kamayaw na po akso katak sa maninganot, akso katak sa ila, ayong itya katak ng ito niyo, kaya nang mukikutuin ng taman na kingo nakadlaking niya po, ilagay ita ko, kuya na may rumayok, tamak ko nga kayo laok to ni, suli inuutilawo, taman na isa mag-itya sa mayasi, amaruta, kuya na may ako tigi si mayasi, kamayaw niya po, pulok tao dyan iputi. Katamayid o kausangit, kiujuti o kausik ko dapat ko tawalok tanok. Editaksan na pula sa mayonik, katamayoyok, yalo na iwan ng anot. Kaya na o kakte, ko wesag po nga YK no at mitan na nakuakte tan ang iyo kakayaw lo ni solo, ikayo katakso ni cancel ka na mo tamanay nung natsiyang mitunga sa siya ko waka Amanda. Kaya na may aksagulo. Ikayo katang ng ano. Kaya na may kilo na ibno at may malagali okte sa atamot. Kaya na may akakte ilitak sigo mayo nga naman walls may nga sa mayo. Mr. Hardy. Kaya na may katimayuyok sa atamit, itaksin na pula kak sa mayonik, slave mo, malagaliyok te, kaya na may okakte, amaruta, ubang ilitak si tanama, ilitak kayo madlugo, ikayo katak sa mga amaruta, kanaruta at siya, tamatama miksano, cancer, kakto ni, ikayo katak sa manikong ma, kaya na may okakte. Kaya na may slave mo, malagaliyok te, ilitak si na pula kak sa mayonik, hero ni Kiano, kaya ni Makakte, editaksi gumayong atana, nakuakte ka, ikayok tiga, tagbani, kataksi mang mat, pila katakakso ni grade 6, may Princess Alexander, iliniyapingan niya, kaya ni Makakte, kaya ni may katimayuyok, hero ni Kiano, pala sa mayon ni editaksi na, yellow knife ni Kiano, kaya ni Makakte, Ilita ka kayo maya ka Amanda Martin tautan na ilita kayo siya ko ya ka pilakat siya katapatamani kanso kakto miksana pijutigil lugo kanso kakto ni katutsa katigay kuning sa mayo. Tayo man ako anak polo na magkoilin niya ako tagwani mata ko yan may kita mayuyok yalo na ni ganot ilitak sa nipula ka sa mayonik amaruta ilitak si gumayong Mr. Hardly make pila katigay katalaw sa magano tayo sa manito kahalulak to solo ito titlo nga na magkugtulaw sa mga man nunalagig ko ni pila katalaw sa mga tatong masuritag bunga.
Recognition of visitors in the gala.
Ilitak sa nipulangak sa mayonik, ilitak sa ngikuta ko yan na may tagpani nunat siya may tagpani kutsi, kawiyasway nakatakpugot, tagpani ito kalakangat, pulangak sa mayonik. Ito sa gagsait, apel ko din o kawasikot, date siyamot, malagalayok te. Kaya may kakte tana apek ko tiga Minister Ani kanang itulaga na mo inulaga na mulok ministro unika ako nakpa kanoy liyo kata mga ata kangalo tayo man na kamaya kata mga ata kaji sakta jo kausa kasima yang ining pila kaya kasima lang na may nakano tuwin na kaya na may di so may malaga de okay ani kanang itulaga ng ministro kaya na may kakte Kana kawi sakter jo asita maning soro atuli ko jidyo takala umat tamag ko nga maliktaw ya kakto ni pilirabino tamag ko maliktaw ya kakto maliksugit pilirige akatsya kaya kang nitino akaw naksakot amalo tako ani akang nangito lagi ko kano iliyo katang mga ata June 2026 may taman na piyanig tao ni aksyon ni amalo tao kano malikagsaw kanang mayut tao Atulak titaw kaya kang ningin tamak ko at sige siya to ni Kina witigo kamagayaw katakalo ang mga ata itaman na pidyo tigid ko tigwang wakak to pidyo tigid lugi 2026 May tamak ko maligag saw kaya kakto kamagayaw kaya kang ningin no solo katingal lutik nadok tawin may to no takad pidyo tigid lugi pianik taw si magaya kakto ni March 2027 ulakpat Amarta kawi sa katakso ni tamag ko nga kinaw yan ni atok tao siya kaluang mga ta October 2026 May. So lukat siyang mga talo tamag ko natakka kamagayaw kataktod amarta ikanayak tingin kawi sa tao kan ng medlutik December 2026 mo tikid logo ko yan na may anya ka na ito lang na mo inulog mo lodi siya mo maligalaw okay? Kaya na may kakti, tayo man na ito nga napikadungan ni tayo man nakawasaktaw sa malang makawasaktaw juanon. Kano ito ni adyong ito ni pilakit itaw ni alakpisi tayo man tumiksano kawasaktaw uda kalawak susi. Ano ka nang ito lang ng mo inulag ng mulo minister, kaya na may kakti tamag ko pilakit kasi mayakpon ang inyong makiyo sa mga mata tayo mga minister sa malaktid daw nga pilakit kalawak sa mayugo tamag ko ni nga kaya mga makikulang magkamaw tilo ta ukalaw ka makatamaya ka lang ukalaw sa magkata unik ka daya kayo sa mayuniglo ukaw sa kakatalaw sa madota adjugin ito neksoko ilagay ni nutak ka niglo ka magiyak kakatak sa magkata ang malukik takane mo yung kikutuin night tayo man naman na yung pilagay kakata tamak ko nga kita kasi mayunig tamak ko ilo ani pilagay kasi magkata tamak ko maligag sa kakasok wadli lutik ang maruta pilagay kasi maluta tamak ko nga amisong wakpali ati kaso aksuwi tamak ko tigwang wakakatak nung nakakasa mayun ang malunutakan kamagidyaw kaya kalikangata tigwang ano iman na ang kan no palya katak ang kakayaw yun no palya katak tabod kay kuruin ng nudlo tigwang katak to no amalota pila kaya katak luta tamak ko nga tamak ko ikajok taw kaya kakton ilagi ikajok katak sugin tigwang kakton Tako 75% nutak kad ikayok tao katang mata ilagay tulad di kono ang kanin ni kaya na kakti kung lapak de chamo malagalakte kaya na kakti o kakti ta na ministro kay pila kakataka ako nakpaano nakakasimayugab makongin kau jiwat liya yamining tamag ko ilagay tulad ng make amaroso ko sila ng may pidyo ta kaktuning ano ka nang ito lang ng mga ministro kaya na may okakte kaya man na pila katigin nakatagkatamag ko ano nakakasimayod kapa magkungin iman na ukaw sa kayo nakatak sa walo tamag ko ukaw sa kayo gangata kanuiliyo ko mga ata kanuiliyo ko yung mga ata lunit solo kanu tuin na sa pumigutik sa kaya to ni pila kaya kakatang mata inuwelo ko niglo ilaginik amarto asing ita ko ano nakakasamayon pila kakatiin nakatang miyak kataw eman na ukaw sa kalakanga tatamag ko ni nga tigwang wakayaw yunig ang malo nutakani magkutuniglo ikayo katak sugildo ikayo tayo gumagangata Bill C-92 mo nakakataw yung tamag ko asad sa palya niyang mata maligay dako maligay asidjak padlian yaktabutta atawtsikod kavamakko tamana ayong inaksayon nakulog kamanang mono nakakarsamayon koy namik apakote okawsikod frame like me malagaleote koy namik okakte okalaw kama katamiyulong okawsakakaw kama tamakko nga angigligak tawag kang ningit tamakko asidjak taw ko yawlok to kano ito ni maligang ni malilawak pisay tamakko asidjak padlialawit iliniyak tulaga ng mo kamagiyaw ko daw yun Minister iliniyak tulaga ng mo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, lots of feedback is received from both members in this House and members of the public, and certainly making sure that we are being responsive as much as possible and addressing changes that need to be made to regulations is part of the process. So that's why the regulations right now are out for public engagement to get some of that feedback. And the reason that they needed to go out right now, while some work is still happening in the back end, is to ensure that changes can be made for the upcoming school year, because the regulations need to go out and be posted for 30 days to provide people with that opportunity to provide feedback into the process. Thank you.
Member from Frame Lake.
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, how does not including bridging programs while prioritizing other changes align with the post-secondary education framework, which identifies increasing access to education opportunities, particularly for Indigenous students from small communities? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Frame Lake, Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, Student Financial Assistance Program did go through quite a hefty review in the 19th Assembly. When I started my term, I did have some additional feedback now that I was in this role that I provided to the department. Some of that feedback is captured in the changes to the regulations right now. And then other direction has been given to the department, including the direction to the department to resolve this particular issue in regards to bridging. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Final supplementary. Member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think I heard something encouraging there, but I'm going to put the question plainly. Will the minister commit to including bridging programs that lead to full-time enrollment in the changes being made to the updated SFA regulations? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Member from Frame Lake. Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I have already given direction to the Department of Education, Culture and Employment to allow for bridging education for students to resolve this issue so that students who need a very specific coursework, like I have had conversations with members on both sides of the House about, can access that bridging program that leads to a trade or a profession that they are pursuing. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Oral questions. Member from Mackenzie Delta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Further to my member statement, my questions are for the Minister of Finance. What policies govern how long community records are retained and where they are housed once stored? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Mackenzie Delta. Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are certainly different standards that would apply to different types of records. I would be happy to get back to the House with some details with respect to what particular records there may be. I know there's been recently a matter that members been advocating for a resident on that was quite dated, and we've been struggling to find anything in that respect. But certainly, as I say, can get back to the House with any specifics on that. I don't have that in front of me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Finance. Member from Mackenzie Delta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll carry on with my questions that I have here. What efforts has the government made to locate, reconstruct, or validate missing employment records for individuals who worked for our government prior to 1998? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are records stored, of course, in different parts of the territory. So with respect to whether or not there's a need to reconstruct a record, so for instance, I know there's been, quite specifically, there was an arbitration decision that has led some folks to be looking for records that in some cases could be quite dated in order to demonstrate whether or not they should be part of the outcome of that decision. which was with respect to casual employment. So in that respect, Mr. Speaker, certainly some people would have their records, some records might be found more quickly or easily, but again, some individuals are running into difficulty and then, again, depending on the type of record and depending on the circumstance, that we could address it individually, but that may well come down to the type of record and the reason for it. So I know there's a particular resident who's struggling to find some records right now, and there may be others looking. I'm happy to deal with them each as they come in. Thank you.
Mr. Finance, final supplementary, member from Mackenzie Delta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. These records are very important for family members, and it's something that these people are trying to get some answers for. It is not unreasonable to expect the individuals to go back that far in time, knowing that the likelihood of retrieving the necessary supporting information may be uncertain or even attainable in retrieving these records. Will the records be able to be retrieved or reconstructed anytime soon? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Mackenzie Delta, Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if I'm not mistaken, the records at issue here are from 1998. So as I know that there is a concern that someone's trying to find some records with respect to their employment, I'll certainly go back and ensure that we have done everything we can to reconstruct it, or to perhaps determine if there's some other pathways, perhaps, for example, through CRA or other tax filings, etc. So we'll bring a bit more creativity to this and see if we can help this individual. Thank you.
Finance. Oral questions. Oral questions. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have questions for the Minister of Health and Social Services. So according to the document tabled by the Health Minister a few days ago on May 27th, in response to a question asked by my colleague from Montfouille back in February, so HSS estimates that the latest annual cost of sending NWT patients south for MRI scans is about $3.3 million, and this cost has been going up significantly year over year. So first, I commend the department for doing that math to figure out those estimates. So my first question for the minister, has HSS or the Health Authority done research on how much money it could cost to buy an MRI machine and offer MRI services in the NWT, and as a result, how much money could be saved over time? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Yellowknife North, Minister of Health and Social Services. Oh, Health and Social.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the information that we tabled, we have that data because we have been doing the feasibility studies. So we have the cost-benefit analysis, and one of the things that we, over the years that the trend has been is that the physicians are using this tool more frequently now, and so that the amount of referrals for MRIs has been increasing over the years, and so now that we've done the feasibility study this in the past, and where we are now, it does show that the cost and the numbers that we have versus just the machine plus to put it into the facility and then to have staff and training and all that, we have all that been completed. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister of Health and Social Services. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I shall be following up with the Minister to see if we can publicize those exact stats. But given that some of the money to be saved is federal dollars, such as NIHB funds for medical travel, has the Minister tried or been able to convince the federal government to contribute funds for getting an MRI machine in the NWT? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Yellowknife North, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as soon as we heard the federal budget last year, all of these types of things that we've been talking about that we have on our wish list immediately came, and we've had those conversations. My staff has had those conversations. I have had those conversations. We've met with Indigenous governments, and I think Indigenous governments and small communities have raised all of the things that they feel that is needed. And within the announcements that we are fitting in within the few announcements that have been made for different health infrastructure of that where these can fit into those, and so we're just waiting on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister of Health and Social Services. Final supplementary, member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So this all sounds promising, but can the minister identify any estimated timeline for when we might actually be able to move ahead with establishing MRI services in the territory? Thank you.
Member from Yellowknife North, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know that the initiative it has been put forward, and so we are just waiting on approvals. We have for approvals from the federal government in our processes that we have internally, and once those approvals have been completed, we'll be able to announce if that moving forward when that is publicly. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister of Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Member from Inuvik-Boot-Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to follow up on my member statement from yesterday, and I spoke about my concerns around income thresholds, around access to programs for seniors, particularly seniors in the smaller communities where costs are higher, who actually oftentimes are looking after other family members. So today, Mr. Speaker, I want to focus more on the housing side because it also pertains to actually accessing housing and the core need of housing. Oftentimes seniors, again, are just over that threshold to get access for housing as well, which is a concern. So my question is for the Minister of Housing. I guess my first question would be, Mr. Speaker, is what is the core needs income threshold and how is that calculated in housing, Mr. Speaker?
Member from Inuvik-Boot-Lake, Minister responsible for Housing and NWT.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. Seniors across the Northwest Territories, they're trying to make ends meet, and I understand the MLA's concern. I've heard this as Minister of Housing for the last couple of years, is how do people make ends meet, especially with the rental scale and the core need income threshold. Just a bit of information about the core need income threshold. It's based on the principle that households should not spend more than 30% of their income on shelter costs. So with that, the core need income threshold levels are community specific. So Inuvik would have a specific threshold number versus Yellowknife or Tuktoyaktuk, for example, and these reflect local housing costs. So if it's like a market community, like Inuvik is, versus a community that's more remote and isolated, like Inuktitut, which would have higher costs and less of a market housing available. All applicants, including seniors, are assessed based on income, with no exceptions at the eligibility stage. For seniors in social housing, we do have a $1,000 monthly income exemption, and it's applied when they're calculating their rent. The defined age for seniors under the Housing and NWT programs is 60 years and older. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister responsible for Housing and NWT. Member from Inuvik-Boot-Lake.
And thank the Minister, and I know the Minister is aware of this. We've had conversations, and I'm sure the Minister has had conversations with constituents as well. Mr. Speaker, I note that the core needs threshold hasn't been updated, I think, since 21. So, you know, is the assessment that's been done to produce these thresholds, you know, do they keep up the current costs? Is it a reality, given what's happening now in costs, certainly in the last 5 years, certainly in the north, and I can speak to Inuvik and the cost for all things power, fuel, and groceries up there. So, would the minister commit to reviewing those that income threshold again, and kind of see if it does still line up with where it was in 2021? Thank you.
Member from Inuvik-Boot-Lake, Minister responsible for Housing and NWT.
Mr. Speaker, currently we are reviewing the core need income threshold and updating it. Costs have significantly increased since 2021, so undertaking this review is important, but also undertaking it not only with the financial or corporate lens, but the social lens as well. So we've incorporated that discussion along with the Housing and NWT overall discussion of increasing income thresholds and increasing rental scales. We also want to add a social lens to it, so we're doing that work right now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister responsible for Housing and NWT. Final supplementary, member from Inuvik-Boot-Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's good to hear that, social and a cultural lens as well. I think it's very important when we look at all these, and I know I got a quasi-commitment from the Minister of Education, Culture and Employment yesterday about looking at doing income thresholds that are equal among all programs across the board and have departments kind of get together on that as well. So, the core need is also there for the actual houses themselves. Yes, it's fine to get the programs in, but can the Minister speak to what the department is doing for the actual core needs? So what are we doing for actual houses to put people in right now to address also the need for the actual houses themselves? Thank you.
Member from Newt. Minister.
Minister, Okakti ambaru ekokti taman na pila kaya si mayon iglo tagal jo kunuman nauyo taman na siwul tak pauti tao ko yaw ni malagaleok ti kunun kabumakkunod do tamakko iglo kakatak to tamakko akililo aktail mayon nakuluin anito inano na chami amarut tao takwan iglo tao kaya kakto kausi saktaw kataksotik tako aro taman nakalutik akiliga kaningin no kausi yaw katang ni aklotik government kun taman na kamagiyaw si mang maukyon abateno taman na kawisak si malutalo iglo tagayaw ni akni ukyon abateo ni akni tamakko pilaga si mayakpot pedyo ta kang mata di pa manguluta ano na siyami man tamakko iglo tagayiko taman na kamagiya kataksoting inulakayiko luta tamakko ni nga tamakko ajigilit titawa sunang mata ajigil ngilo katamata manaw yumi itlura ngamot kayo nami range like mo malangaleokte kayo nami okakte tako inulakajik ko ikitutsiya kataktakka kaman na kaujisaktaw yung kalituarangan ikayo kata Pati tamakko apeksoy na kantang mata 75% gayaw yuko tamakko nutakalagayi ilagay tulagayi yudlo taman na amin sa mga arong ni kamagaya kakatang mata tinga sa akte makiksote ang amin sa unang sa katarang mata kaya maukakti tamakko at hui ko ado gayang ipilagalo kataksote inulagajikot minister taan na udlumi ulit to akik sigun nakniyak pa pilagitakan ng luna inulagaji tamakko pilagay kataktangin so lumikiliyak tao jumi yun nakulluwil amin sa mga tao kanayak tigayaw yun kaya na may ukakti tako di pa mangil ilagay tulagayo yung tamakko ikijok to katang mata tamakko ni nga pilagayo katakto din taman na angayo kakaktulo pita ka solo pilagayo kataw katang mata imana ikanayak te kangiluang na po no pidyo ta kangin mata taman na awlak te siga so sa magata at siging ito ning ikanayak te do nasa kataktawod na magkaroon mga ta pilagayo na akto unika kayaw lok to pidyo tigil duwit tako 56 ngayon ikayok to katak sa bang mata no naling ni tao yun taman na pidyo tigil dugo kayo sa kotigis mayo taman na kami kutsi ako na kuluta akago ni akto may pilo akto may tamakko tamo kaloki sa katagilaw ka tamakko at sige ngito na kanayak tiyo yun na rin ni sibulak tilo ang ayok kakayaw lulo ala nun tamakko akaniyo lang akto may akso ko takakpalato yung nakatatamakko ng ano na rin ni may tao yun may kinaksaw yun pilakakaya kalo ako tamakko ako yun na may kakti anak ka nang itulak na mo inulak na mo minister tako inulak ko kaya maulak to tamakko nakatikala ako sa mga matatamakko nga inulak yun pilakipingan okay no sawan no tamakko akek sok taw siya sa mga mata na yung wanik lo pilakita kaya kakloting kaya man na inulak yun pita kakan na kaya kang na matamakko kayok taw yun na kulugit pilakilo akatang mata amalo ulokanak tumititawlak sulita makko pilakaya kaya kaktangin nutakan Ana ka na ito lang ng mga minister, tayo man na ukalaw ka ma, tayo man na ikanayak ti, pita kang mata, ikanayak ti, solo, inuktaw, simangito, pita kakulo niyang mata, ikanayak ti, akasukalawak tuwod, tamak ko niya, contract, tiyo katakto niglo, pilakita katakto ta, tamak ko, ilagay ito, lakajik ko, kikutuin nang ni kamagiya ila apersukatamata ilagi tulariyikkud inulariyikkullu soorlu innuktauvallia yunna kullugi piliriak sangin taiman natako piliriluarta ilima yunna kullugin pingasuartarlutik amisungin naksauqattamata piliriyik saugajaqtuugaluan innuktaukattangippata Inuktitut taako inuktitut taako aulatsiyi soorlu aangayuqaaqiyaulullu pileriqatauqattammaqittulluunniin ikayuqasuartu tamakkuninga inuleriuqattaqtuni quyinnamiuqti aaneqarnangitulaanamu Minister Range Malagaliuqti taako 34% ngularmara tamakku iqqinayaqitaakkannertauiaqartut Minister uqainnaqattarma tagpani katamaviu iluani taimanna uqallatuinnaqattarma qanullataa pileriaqigiaqallataartamini pileriaqaqattangilluni taimana nuqqarunnarpaa Range Lake Malagaliuqti aaneqarnangitulaanamu Minister qayannaviuqaarta nuqqajaangittunga pileriannik oqarti taako anunalilukta upaqattartakka ammalu inuleriukta taako oqallaqatigiqattartakka ammalu nuqaqqaarsimayuk qaujimangmata akseruutaqarnitinnu qaujimaqattarmata uvangatta akseruutaqarattaqarma inuleriyikkunning taimanna anaanaga toqutautillugu taimanna pileriaqarsimagawa tamakkuninga inuleriyikkunnik pitaqariaqarmat imanna ilagiittaqartoqariaqarmat taimanna imanna nutaqqani kamatsiariaqaratta taimanna nunalluktaat soorlu inuluktaatsia taimanna kamagiaqarmata tamakkuninga nutaqqani nunaliuju malagaliuqtillu qallaqatigiqattaqakki suulertillu aviktorsima qattarmata tamakku kikkutuinnai nutaqqan ilagi akseruutaqartu tamanna pijutigillugu pileriqatigitsiareaqarpugut pileritsiarasukkaluartunga nunatsiarmiutauyuni nutaqqani tamakkua pileriarijakka sulinerautigismajakkalu uqallattaarsimajakka tamakkua malgasuanginnaqattaqakkit tamanna pijutigillugu nunaqaqqaarsimayugaavamakkuungin pileriqatigitsiarlugillu quyannamiuqarti Qayanami aaneqarnangittuleqarnermu Minister apeqqutiit uqausikkut yalunaiqqitianut qayannamiuqqarti katimayu qatiga uqaqqaungman taimanna annalluayyartausimangmata airbortimi tamanna qaujisartarlu uqarsimangma 2014 2018 milu taimanna 2026 nguliqtumitta uqaqattarma pileriyi pitaqangiluarmata ammalu amigaluaqattarluti pilerigiat qatsiaqaluarluti tamakkualu katakpalliatuinnarluti inuleriyikkun aulatsinermu kamagijaqatuinnerniqsauyuujaaqattarmata soorlu pitsiariaqartamini pitsiangilluli kikkut saatauyuksauniarpa tamakkuninga pileriariaungittuni aaneqarnangittuleqarnermu Minister Qainami uqaqti taimanna uqaqqaugama taakko department kut ammalutta uvangalutta pileriinnaqasuartuguugalua ikajuqasuartugut nunatsiarmiutauйуннин ilagiiniglu ammalu taimanna iliunginnarniarpugu akaussivaalleqtitsigasuarluta tamakkuninga maligaarniglu saqqititsivallianginnarniartugut tamakkua business kijattinni aaqiqsuivalliagasuanginnarniartugut tamakkualuktaatsia kamagijautsiaqunnaqullugi sapumijautsiaqullugillu nutaqqan taima ullu isulippan taimanna ilagiittuleriyikut pileritsiartigasuartagut tamaluktaarmik imanna ilaannikut imanna soorlu aksoruluamut luunniin ilaannikkut pigiaqartarnu inutuinnaquluugama sunaluktaani pileriaqarunnanginnama tamanna pijjutigillugu pileritsiaqasukkaluartugut ajornanginnersauyunnaqullugi pileriangin iqqinaayartima taimanna pileriariautsiangittuugalua ilangin ila pileriaqsaqaruqqattagimmata tamannaluktaa ikayuqtaugiaqarmata gavmakkunnit ammalu ikayuqtaugiaqarlutiglu maligaliuqtikkunnit ammalu nunaqaqqaarsimaju gavmakkunginnik Taiman na ilagay, taiman na itong matatamaan nilunat siya miwana. Anak ka nang ito lang na mga minister, inulang na mo loyalong na ipatiyan mo, ligalewte. Taiman na mamaya nakta ko, kakataw yak ko, titakataw kaya kakto, pilagagayaw katangin mata. Taiman na 33% tako, ekanayak tiyo kaya kakto, kay maktaw ko yung nakatang mata, 24, ekakay, pero kaya tigod, iman na kigla kakitaw katang mata, apak ko titaan na pidjutigil lugo, maligat tigod, ministro, o kakpa, tamakko, kamagiyaw kaya lino, takkilugta, binaso ko silugta, ilanik ko, ulugan, naktamiditagon ng mata, pilagagayaw ng iluwang ningin, isulakat takso tigla, pilagabik sa kayangin, sung mata, man na ito ba? Yalo na yung kaya ano maliliw te ane kama ito lang na maministra ko yan na may okakte taiman na ito taiman na okalaw ito nga pilagagayaw si mang ito lakaw ito nga ilani ko nunalialani Cover Lake Ambalo Sambake kuniloni taiman na inulari kakatangin man kamagiyaw kaya kakalwak so taiman na ikanayak tigo tamakko tamani miutay awlak tiga kakatakat tigo Taiman na techo mitaw, taiman na anak tulakan na taman na kamagiyaw kaya kaksari uko apilya kaya kaya kaksari do taiman na uluya katamata. Kaya magata iman na ikanayak tibod amigalo katamata tako na nunalala ngo yun eh. Taman na pijutigil do pila kaya kagasuta kalwak po tako ah. Anak ka nang ito na naman minister, king of the park, yalo na yung katianot. Ukakte iman na Kikut kamayilatangawan narunang ito ta na minister kamayilatangon man tamakko titiraktaw si mayukak si mang mata takko solo sa pumikatang man tamakko nga ikanayak tining akirakto katak sunilo nakakak si mayon yun ay nutak kaning ilagay niglo tayo man napilit siya akong nakaluak pa kinaangat yung kangaluak pa ta sa mga Kaya na minister, anak nang ito lang na mo, inulaki ng mulo. Kagbani, kawisak tao, si magutaw yun eh, tayo na itong mapilagin lang si Mandotalo, ang malo. Tayo na, ano nakakasi mayulong, ano na siya may, tayo na nakawjimain na si magagko, kano iliyok tao kaya kang nanganon, ang taman na pijutigil lewo amisur takso tatagbani o kakata ka mailagilog tad so ikayok tago makatangin mata ikayok kaya kakaluak tildo ta akso ko takaktilogin tabag ko inulakin at solo tigo sa katang mata no takani udlo may ulak tumilo account niya sa ulang magaba maulok to may 75% no takat solo ang community kaya so ang nakaya kakatigo tako pilagat siya ako nakuluga ngayon katsya ba ng mulo ka magiyak kaya kaksalita magko pilagat akin nakatigo upip po nga do tamag ko asin sa simalakatigo Taiman na kikutuin na aksoro kakto na kakasama dito ang ito galawa kisa ni kikulimatsa taiman na amisono ikayok tayo kasok kaluang mata kawya kulugin lo uwago ikayok kaswa kata akakto kaswa katangin na ta kaya may wala namang minister ko islay mo maligaliyok ti kaya na may kakte apiriga ko minister ane akanangit talaga na mo tagba ni akagami atok to may tamak ko nga eksumigot kanso katakto kawisak tao katakalok mga ta kanso ta tuwin na kaya kang ningin no taiman na asingin ni okaw sa kakatakata tako kan na tamiw daw yu taima tao taima ilingang mi matataw kawisak tao na kanso ka ngikalok mga ta taiman na kan na tamiw daw yu tao soklo ukiyongin mikinaksain tunganin na sa kawji saktaw katta kaya kang mata kaya na may question mo maligalewte anak ka nang ito na mo inulan ng mulo minister kaya na may okakti tayo man na kawji saktaw katta mata tamak ko ano na siya may amisong inakpangulo te eksumigo tamak ko cancer ta katakto tamak ko cancer nakpango katakto kawji yaw kaw tigigang ami kamagiyaw kaw tigigong nakatang mata Tag vaninunat siami taiman na iviangi migut sorloan ila cancer ta katakter angin yakpanin cancer ta katakter makuktunik sa ikaw yasak tao katang naksaulik to garwa kaya na may di chamot malagalewte kaya slay mo malagalewte tugi siya magamata makko minister tako si mangim matamak ko ni nga katsi to katang mga ta ikanayak tilo katsi o katang mga ta ikayok ta kaya karuang mata tamak ko isuak sa yin kinawian niglo atong inyak sa yun nakaruang mata kaya man nakawisak tao kao tiga katak pata tamak ko ukiukin sa galon kaya na may okakte Taiman na solo cancer ta sa mayuto kaulaga nga tatamak ko akso nang nagsawso kung mamisak tao ng mon. Taiman na amiso ng luha katangin mata ukiukin naksay tamak ko kawsisak tao ng naksaw katang mata. Ani aktularigyak po amiso luha katangin mata. Ikaw ngiliw ko te kakatak sa tito tamak ko solo kawsi yokak galak kangan. Daiman na anak ta sa malakanga ta iminakawisak tao kao tiga kataya kakaluang mata kaya mo kakte anak ka nang ito lang ramot kinulak pa grade slay mo malagaleokte kaya mo kakte daiman na uy maya ka ma minister na lunayak sigun na pauwan no tamay man na ukiyo kinniksay tamakwa kawji sakte waya kang katamata iwiyang imigod amalo yak sa migod Taiman nakawisak tao siya kataklutin. Sibulak pautit siga sukpa tamak kuning akan sutatuin na kaya kakton di ukiukin naksaning. Tako uy maya ako tigilakakin. Pinamig guys type mo malagalewte anya ka nang itulog ng mga minister. Nurat siya mi tamak ko amisuro ang ito ukiu kakto tamak ko 45 non. Tago katak sa magatalo tamak ko 50, 17 tamak ko amisonik sa uluding. Taiman na amisong paliagay kakaluang mata. Yan sa kami karuang mga ata kawsisak tao katak to ukiukin naksautin Luis Suli. Tamak ko ulungan ak tumayin naksait so kawsisak tao katak kang mata. Tamak ko Nova Scotia ko tamay taiman na ukiukin naksaw yun le kawsisak tao naksaw katang mata tamak ko cancer tatuin na kaya kaktor kawsisak tao nga ang naksaw katak so din 18, 20, 24 niglo takin ni utak kaya kahatang mata ang marutaw taiman na nunalilang ni may utaw yun taiman na puk tao si malutang kawsisak tao katang mata ukaw sa kayaw anya ka na ito lang minsa apa ko di ukaw si good mga kwimi malagalokte kaya na may ukakte minister na lang sigunak pa idulari ko nun at siya may taiman na tamag ko nga dahil sa manito kalo atok tao katak to ni iglo akiliw tigiyaw yun ang kawisak sa mga ta
Just to clarify that Housing and WT does have that information at hand with property tax assessment and also what principal has been paid to each mortgage throughout the Northwest Territories. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister responsible for Housing and WT. Member for Moultrie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in March, it was announced there were about 197 legacy mortgages in the NWT, and of that there were about 60s from Klitschko region. I would like to ask the minister to date, I would like to know how many of that file has been completed from Klitschko region. Thank you.
Thank you, Member for Moultrie. Minister responsible for Housing and WT.
Mr. Speaker, I don't have the exact information for the Klitschko region, but I do know that what Housing NWT did do was they sent notification to each mortgage holder to let them know that this policy has been initiated by the Financial Management Board, approved by the Financial Management Board, and initiated by Housing NWT. So that outreach did happen with Housing NWT mortgage clients. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister responsible for Housing and WT. Final supplementary, member for Moultrie.
Mr. Speaker, will the minister commit to providing blanket forgiveness for all remaining housing NWT legacy mortgages with no further application process required from residents? Mr. Speaker, if the minister says yes, for many people in a legacy mortgage, Christmas has come early. Thank you.
Member for Mofi, Minister responsible for housing and NWT.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as Minister of this government, I do have a responsibility to follow the Financial Administration Act and follow the Financial Management Board. So the Financial Management Board initiated this policy, and we have to follow it as Housing NWT. But of course, whatever we can do to provide services and supports to Housing NWT mortgage clients, we will do that as Housing NWT. And this is something new and initiated by MLA Waylon Armstrong in her advocacy. So we continue to do that work. We continue to have discussions, but Housing NWT has to do the work with clients. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister responsible for housing and NWT. Oral questions. Member from the Sawtooth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question today is to the Minister of Strategic Infrastructure. The Prime Minister stated last August the mandate of the MPO office is one of two. First, by streamlining and accelerating regulatory approval processes for major projects. That leads me to my questions today. Can the Minister state a position on a comprehensive educational review of the history on the regulatory process going back to 2013 is needed by all stakeholders? We've got new leaders today. Will the Minister of Strategic Infrastructure consult with right-of-way Indigenous governments on this approach? Mussy.
From the Sawtooth, Minister responsible for Strategic Infrastructure, Energy and Supply Chain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the focus on our regulatory system here and absolutely commit to continuing work with the Indigenous governments all along the Mackenzie Valley Highway, including all the way to the border and on both ends and all the way to the ocean, Mr. Speaker. So that work has been happening. That work's been happening faster and faster since the Prime Minister's announcement, and I think the recognition that we're not anymore just looking at the first phase, we're looking at the whole route. So absolutely we'll continue that work with them and want to ensure that what we are doing is focused on making the best and fastest path forward for the regulatory approach on that entire route, whether that's through the MOU we have with CERNAC, the MOU we've signed with Canor. Those bills are in motion. So I wouldn't want to supersede what's happening in those fronts. I want to make sure that we get that work done, and hopefully that will answer the concerns that the member has. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister responsible for Strategic Infrastructure, Energy and Supply Chain. Member from Sawtooth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the Minister for the clarification on communication with IGs. My second question, will the Minister support a deadline for this one project, one review submission to the review board before July 31st, 2026?
Member from the Sawtooth. Minister responsible for Strategic Infrastructure, Energy and Supply Chain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I said before, we are doing this project partnership. We want to work with the governments and communities that will be the beneficiaries and on whose lands these projects will ultimately take. We are on track to have our addendum ready for July, now that we have our routeway through the debt show finalized. But Mr. Speaker, more than that, I'd like to be in a place where we are able to look at one streamlined regulatory process. We're right now in front of the boards with respect to phase one, but we'd like to be in a position that there is indeed one project. I don't want to impose a deadline that involves others beyond our own government alone, but I certainly agree that we want to be at a place where there is one project, there is one process, and certainly want to be at that place as quickly as possible. We'll advocate for same with our federal counterparts, and we'll look for good news coming from the federal government to support exactly that outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister responsible for Strategic Infrastructure, Energy and Supply Chain. Member from the Sawtooth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the Minister for that response there. I'm glad to hear that there's a target or initiative for one project, one review. that'll eliminate a substantial amount of costs. My last question here, Mr. Speaker, would the minister submit both IGs, the project MOU that is out there and going to be signed by the three IGs, and this on this one project, one review to our federal counterparts, so they are engaged on what the process is and the approach to conclusion for the environmental assessment. Merci.
From the Sud to Minister responsible for Strategic Infrastructure, Energy and Supply Chain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker, absolutely. We'll ensure that we're doing our part. These Indigenous governments do have their own nation-to-nation relationships with the federal counterparts, and we're trying to ensure that they have engagements with the Major Projects Office. In fact, Major Projects Office representatives are here next week, and we are meeting all governments with them, but we'll ensure that we have carried the message of our readiness to them in advance so that we are well positioned to take every advantage of what's happening on the federal landscape right now with respect to one project, one review approaches, and see that the Mackenzie Valley Highway benefits from that at the earliest possible stage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister responsible for Strategic Infrastructure, Energy and Supply Chain. Oral questions. Member from Inuvik Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've given a member statement, I think 3 times now, on regarding the GNWT approach to traditional use cabins. I think I've stood up here, and I think previous members have as well prior to this assembly. Once again, I have constituents who are now receiving letters that their lease will not be renewed until their arrears are paid, even though I and they have been assured that the arrears will be reversed and the issue will finally be resolved. So once again, Mr. Speaker, I ask the Minister of ECC, where are we on this? Once and for all, are we going to get this issue resolved? Thank you.
Member from Inuvik Lake, Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I've stood up and stated many times in this House, this is certainly a priority for me. We have been engaged in this conversation since 2023. We've had multiple bilateral meetings. We've had workshops. We've clearly heard from the Indigenous governments across the territory about this issue. You know, that the Indigenous governments, Indigenous people were here long before our system came into place, and that, you know, they're very passionate about this, and it's certainly the message that they've put forward has been that this is an infringement of their rights. So we've made significant progress, and we will continue on that road as we are working toward a sustained solution here very shortly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Colleagues, my house, please and thank you. Member from Inuvik Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for that. Okay, great. We've heard that possibly it's going to go back to $1. It's going to go to $1. We have 2 settled land claims in my region, as you know, Mr. Speaker. I know the minister knows. So, very close. Very close is the life of this assembly. Very close is next week. Does the minister have any timelines when we can go back with some positive news to my constituents that this has been resolved? Thank you.
From Inuvik Lake, Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I recently received analysis from the department that sets out pathways available to the GNWT for addressing this issue in a way that responds to the interest of the Indigenous governments. That analysis is thorough, reflects the legal, constitutional, and administrative realities of where we have to work within. And I'm currently going to need a little bit more time. I'm going to take this back and discuss it with my cabinet colleagues and assess the options that have been put forward and come back with a resolution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Final supplementary, member from Inuvik Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank
Kaina me okakti amal tautan na nagkitsang na pa manaw ninga na ministro okakunak pa time na titakani aulak sa katakong italo kaktakon nunalakala kaktot so laksak tau tuin na kaya kang ningin no pidyo sa kaktoning apat mo italo na mga minister kaina me okakti time na ukalugvio katak sa mga kamanakitwin na nunat siya mi utaw yunin. Taman na lo tagbani solo niya katang matatamak ko akidiw ta kang namuti ta kay tayo man na ismalo ko ta kakpadakit ko tuwin na katamayo yulo amalo ni ko tigayaw yu tamak ko solo akiling ito tamak ko aksak tao na akpo tao yakang ikaroang mata ukaw tinayak pagkaikadayak tigayak po tayo mananang manipakatang matapayak ito yung makaro katak na loko biya sa pangalo ukaw ko nakama tamak ko tayo man solo akili ako yun ang mo pidyo de kakto pilakakilwa diyang itakpon kaya nami Ape ko tayo ukaw sa ko katamayo yung uwan lang kaya nami ukakte ta na minista mo na kanang ito lang na mo inalakan ng mulo March ulaw to mi tayo na sakit sila matatamak ko na kami ko yaw niya ning itamak ko to lang na mo maligar juang mi tahan na maligar juang uyok so lo kaw sa kayaw lo katangin matatamak ko kang unak to lang kay juti kayaw yo to lang kay kud ang marutaw ilang ito lo kay kutuin na tayo na to lang kayaw juti kayaw ni paipan namin kaw jiga sungulang mata tayo maunik ka tayo sa mayukak sa mga may tamak ko amin so naksain solo pero ila takoy kaya kang itaminig tako katang mata tayo masubol na kami apak ko tigaya kami nista mo tamak ko namin tamak ko ni nga solo tamak ko aniak to lang igutin ni kawji sa kaya kakatak to Yang na nuat may malgalokte anak na ito lang ng mumisa okakte kamag ko ito kasi kaya ako tiksay titakay anak uli ako anak uli na mo pidyo tigiyaw yun magkwalo kang unak talaga ng mo pilakaya kayaw katak to ukala ka tigiya kakatak mata lutaning kawisak to kalaw taman na kawisak to kaya kang nang nga pidyo tigilo taan na unika tao sa mayon tukitak tao laman tayo man na tamak ko ikadayak tilo tamak ko atulak tao kaya kang nasana mata akayak tao tiyalo tiglo ko maligaksay anak tulagan na umiksana pidyo takaktot tamak ko anak tulagan na mo pilakaya kayaw katakto titakay sibo mo palian itinon maligang ni akigasikan ng niaktugon Akiyo matsiyang nasaw yun nakulugi tamak ko okaw sa kayangin anak ka nang itulagan na mo ministerial knife nuat malgalokte kaya na may okakte kaya na may okotigi baka tayo man na pilakaya kang nang nakaman tayo atula ko jiju tao ye man naling alam maligaya akayak tao yang nanginot kikut inne sa solo tukisiya majutik sa sakati tao katak tapi jutik iluin minister o katsa ko nakpa kanga atula ko yaw ni akto tamak ko maligak sa ni akton iman na sakati tao latang na mga tao unikak tao sa mayo tamak ko akik tao sa mga mata tamak ko asisok ta ila akiyak tao na ang nangay malika pidyo tigilugin ang laka na ito lang na mga minister inulaka na moldo tamak ko kami ko lao at ajigeng ito ni ukaw sa kalaw matalaw asijigi kayak to tukisi ako taon na kayak to anak to lang ito tao itakat pidyo tigilugin ang malukan unikak tao sa makataka kang nangin nun ato lang kayaw yulo kang pila kayaw na ang mga ta Taman na sakit sinakto ko maligang ni ukak si mayonig tamak ko anak to lang kayaw yun tigayaw yun iman na kang unak to ningin ka magiyaw kaya kamata tingol lapak yung knife not mo malgalokte kaya na may ukakte tayo ukak si mang tamak ko atok tao kaya kakto kapamak ko iluwani sakyak te tao ngisunod do taka ni miyo tao yun tamak ko anek wilayak pagdo kaw diyaw katang mata Minister iman na to sa majutik sa kayak tuning tukisinat siya tunitakan ni miyo tatuin nang no sakit sigun nakpa ilagi tunod tugisige ako tiksaw kayak to ni anya ko lang ni sabi jud kakto ni yun lang na mo anya ka na ito lang na mo lo minister tamak ko tugisige ako tiyo kayak to gaba makuno pala kaya katakton tamak ko tiyak kay solo sakya simang sakya simang mata takani mi taw yun tugisige saw titaw siyang nerlotek tugis ila Wakaw siya ngay pilo akalong ngiluting kanok lupiyong nang nakakatang mga tatamag ko nga ane akang nang itulakan ng mukha magiyaw yuksan ng tukisige ako te kao malaka nga takang ngunak to mata ilangin nalayak siya mayudlo tamak ko ato agang nititakak sa mga mata at winaw titaw lutiglo tamak ko kikutuin na kawji gumayo tamak ko nga kang ngunak to ni kawji gumagangaming So, ato yung nakatitaw siya kung nakatakayak to, kang unak to laki, kano yung isang ito akpada, kaya na may ukate. Ano ako nang ito lang mo, Minister? Kati may yuyo, kape ko ti, ukaw si good grades live me, malagali ukte. Kaya na may ukate, takwa, pijitigid lugay, malik sa kaklo nga, kape ko ti yan ni, iman na time at 25-30% loan ni, Inoy ilaw na patakaw sa tao ng moyak sungin kaso kang ikaro mga taiman na may kinaksaw yun ami sungin naksaw katakayak mata taiman na kaw sa tao ka tiga katako te taiman na iman na solo Kau saktaw umayo kan so kami karong mga may tayo man na kayo saktaw kau tigin na sabi na kulugi ana ka nang ito lang na mo inulog ng mula minister kaya na may kakti tamak ko na tukis kaya ako tilatango kayak to ni pisimangin na ma tako ana ka nang ito lang ko inulagi kulo Pilira kasi magata, pilira kuluyak si madutaro, yak suluk to, kayak to ni, kanso ta kata kayak ni, yak sumigon. Taman na pilira kasi magati ko, amalo kayo sakta tao katakso, kayo sakta tao katakso din, akaw naksakko. Tamak ko, tukit sige ako tita, ako anano yak si mayu, kika kasi mayu, pitak pisimangin nakit. Kaya man na ato na kayo dito ako katang makasitin no. Kaya man ako di magaluak to nga tayo manganin. Ami siyang mo kaya tao sa malang mata. Uki yung mikinak sa ilam. Uki kinak sa kawi saktaw lang tilugin. Kawi saktaw ng mapakatarang mata. Ami siyang mo pali atuin ng mata. Lutamak ko utak kayo. Kawi saktaw ng mon. Taman nagkamagiyaw si Madonilo. Ana ka nang idulungan mo, Minister? Taman na tukang naktot tao, ibiyangig ko, kanso katoy na kaya kakton. Kamagiyaw katak may matata, Minister kay tayo kabe ko yun nakpakatsiw katak mga ta, kinaw ya atok tao yun, no naling ni tikiti tao ya, kawisak tao na yung lutik, kami ko yaw na actually kanso kang ikaroang mga tao ibiyang imiti ko kaya namin anya ka na italang na mo minister kaya namin ukakti kawisak tao katak doon tamak ko ang na ibiyang imiti ko maligag sa kakso tapigat anya bilyar be katwa ka nga nito yung nakpita ka kuluya katang matatamak ko kawis sa kutin kanso kang ikaroang mga tati ko doon na ibiyang imiti ko Teman na solo kanso katoy na kaya kang nangin no kayiyaw nga ta kawis-saktaw kan na kaya kasi ang mata luta laking nun teman na pijutikid lugo solo kawis-saktaw kan na kaya kakuyaw pan tako ato kasi gutik sa pisimangin nakit watsi ako kanikiw kan na unak na karuak ta katimayuyok Apa ko te okaw si good range like me malagali te ko ni me kakte to sakte tawla ko ma na minister ani ka nang ito lang na mo tamen na nuta ka ni psiwula pautit siga so ila Taiman na gawamat ko taiman na uno kakasama yung gawamat kong inni ukalabi kalwa katangin maratamak ko ano takkat papataw si mayo pedyo tigil luwit iman na ukalatak si mayo takaya kang man akso ko tigil lagig ligo man nakaw tigil uka taman na ka ikana yak tiulo nilo ani ak tulagi takko sung matay na maligatigo dutakad ikayok tawlo katangin mata kanu ito nigluman na kautige udlumi tamak ko nga kamatsara akaktok man na kautige niyaktumi kaya na may ani akang ito lang na minister kaya na may ukakti tanas tayo mga ni takko ikana yok tilugtak po nutak kali solo ilakos ito kami tigo kami yawi akakangata kau ikay kataka kang mata no naliabig to sa maningita ang yung kakayaw yun inulagay nun amalo tagbani iluani pilarigo siya katakta akis kataktu ilin niya titaw kataka ilin niya si matitaw kataka kang ningino kanayak ti tamang meng tamang ko pilari yangin ilagay ito no takhalag na mulo pilari yaw yun solo kamagiyaw ay akakto no takkan kaujik kaktaw ay akakatak suting manaw yung tayo may liyok tawad lelak to galong range like mo malagalaw te koyan may ukakti kaujik mabawiyak tabo tamak ko inulakayik kon tayo man na pilariyak sa nga amis ang magaro katang mata iliniyak titaw katang mata pilarik ka nang namo pititaw katak suting luto na yung kaktaw katak suting ati aki utaw sa wayak tuning sakirit singalok ta manaw yu ko pilari bagir to taman na pilari sa ngin tatak titawal ato ng mata ikana titak tsekan na unak pa ino lagi yu yun kamagiyaw siya katakulugi tamakontakan kaya may kakti range like mo malagaliw kaya ane ka nang ito lang na mga minister tagbani pilari bigidatin ni pilariya kakakakot akaw si wala ko tao kaya ito na ilinyatit sa katara kasungo at tayo na tagwa pilariya kang napugot tayo ati tayo na kanito na itwili ako kakot siya kakot yaw siya kataktak yung lakpat siya tanag tako inulagay ko tayo na kauji mga makiko mga tayo kanaya ko mga ito uwan nung ato ni siya akto yalang mapilari eksamin kaya na may kakte Wings like pumalayo tayo yung make minister ani ka nang ito lang na mo inulak na mulo tagba ni pilariyatin ni kanayak titin ni ukala katakatak tagod udak titaw katakso ni aulit si katamajik kong inot tako pilari gumangitod pilari gumangipata tayo man na pilari yiksanig kanya katayan ng nakpugod Sakatit siniyak sa talo tamak ko nga akit tao si magutik sa kayak to ni pilariyak sa tinig titirak si mayo kakatang mata tamak ko at tao pita kaming matao o kadla katiyak at takso tigulo tayo mga ni unik kakayaw yung kayo sakta dyan mo sakit tao si malaktil lugid minis tao si malalukta minis tao si manindaw pilirit siya kasi yung nakaluak to nga kata majita ko aperson ng isulemat aperkote okausekut titarak sa mayikut aperkote kiujuti aperkota ulok tunut kiujuti kami sina okausong ngautingin no taiman na tuksa atilok sa mayut kata maji taiman na manaw yung tako tusaji gayak po takarse kaya kang matanok kang alawpit lang niya po kaya may okakti
Thank you.
Pinamik. Katamagalang mita. Unikka ningit tamakwa kami ko yaw ningin note. Frame like mo malagalawti. Kaya na may eksibawta. Unikka mati ko pa ko yak saktori to tana malika. Solo kam ko kanayak tingin number 2 page tigil ko to kalian ko kalamak tawlo 1 October 21 2025 me tum new tawlo sa nilugar ko awla tawning no kay ko yaw ko logo pa ko yung aliw law seglo pa ko yak sakto dito ang ko tawlo ma February 13 2026 no tilugo Paman na pianik tawlo mata ko kami ko yaw nang pa ko yak sa minister kena wala na mo May 28 2026 no tilugo kami ko tilo taping training pero yung aliw lang matatamak ko nga ang tawag sa minister mo ta ko kata may kala pero yung saktaw ito pidyo tigilog mo ko kanayak tingin ng buto pidyo tigilogit kay saktaw lang tilugo amin sulok taw lang tilugo ismaliok taw kon ila kata magutaw kon naksima kaya namig pero yung saktaw dito tan na tunyo taw kon naksibo kata matuin na ko taw kon naksiluni unik kangit kata may kami ko yaw nang ina pero excited unika taon nga tako kata maya kala kay naktulo frame like malagalokte kaya na may okakte tan na pila kala okakte unika leo ko tigilo okakte kata maya kala se tama ko awla ningin na kay makulo matatako nga nunatsia metako kama ko talaga na mo pidyo tigilo amaruta kata mayu no ka sa kaya ko logo kama ko awla taon ningin non kata may kala ta ko nga kay makula mata tamak ko nga kama ko te chorlo pila kaya ningin na tamak ko mako te pidyo te gilugit NTPC ko tamak ko pila kak sa mang bata tayman na kama ko te ni tamane ta ko ano na tiyaga makong itayman na pila kang matata ko nga pila ila ka makuti may sana pedyo ta kakto na ikaw makutuin na nga ito kay kuluktado kay utakak na matato abang naktakot pila kayo katakon na kulugit makuha kami kangat ta minister 2025 nguntilugo ta pane NTPC ko tamak ko pila kakatalaw mata kamagaya kakto kay NTPC ko nik nun siyami amaluta kami kulaw kata may kalangon lura tamak ko ngayon sa gamma kong itato ang inig sang ngaksak ko tamak ko kamagiyaw yun nakulugit di kayo toktaw ko nakulugit lo kata may kala nunat sa gamma kong ini ato lang ko yung mata tuwan tigiyaw yung malagaliwak tamig sana pidyo tikilugit sang ilak palak ti tao yun nakulugo taman na pizza ko tao ikikurin na okakte ato lang kayaw yung number 1 kata may kala ato lang kayo po nun at saka magkukid akisugi kakpo NTPC ko ning amalo kami iyakaklo te kami kuyaw kaya kanang ino tamak ko ay sumaliw ko tao kayak tut taman na akigayak tao sa mayon nakulugilo ato agay pakuyak sa ilo pizza kautilo ato lang kayaw yung number 2 kata may kala ato lang kayo po nun at saka magkukid NTPC ko ni manaw ni aktamin lunay at siya sa mayukot ato agaliw kaya kakpo NTPC ko na ato tao siya kung nakayak tunik tamak ko akin bakatak ningin ka mamakul isumaliw ko tika katak tangin pang nautin kinawati ko atong nerlo ang malapit sa kauti o katak tunik ato lang kayo po number 3 nung natsiyaga mamakukid sanginak sanik solo ka magiyak kakpo NTPC ko ka mamakulo pila katak tangin niya ka makutila niyo magsana pedyo da kakto ni amal unikaro te ugatin no ko NTPC ko song matay man na kamagigakak kami ni kamagitsilo katang mga ta atula ko yaw yung number 4 katamayakla atula ko yung na tsaga makong akay sigakak po solo ang katigi ko tao yung saming NTPC ko pa katigi yaw lutek ta ko sa tao yung sounding in unika kataka kaningin na minister giyaw yung mo amalo katamayin mo aulat sino lo taman na ang katigi ko tao yung tamak ko NTPC ko pila kayang nekot ila business factor no asangin no lo iman nama akyo matsya kaningin no number 5 katamaya kala katola ko yung no natsaka magkongin NTPC ko katamaya ng time na pila katsya kaningin no so roke ko to inak no kamag ko nga Narunayaktaw sa mayunik. Ammarutaw tamakko pilararayangin kamagiyaw siya katakon na kulugin. Atula ko yung number 6 katamayagala atula ko jibono na siya kamakongin kaujisat siya kaya kakpo tamakko nga NTPC konig kaujisat siya katakot katamaye ila ko siya hangin ni anmar ako na ko kamagiyaw akan na akto ni atula ko yung number 7 katamayagala atula ko jibono na siya kamakongin sa tawag sa waya kang nangin no titakan talamak ko pisimang mata atoy na utit si siya lutik dal na yatsiak sa malutik lo tamakko nga pilarayaw kaya kakto ni pang naktaw sa magaya kakto ni glo kay kutuin naklo tamakko kamakko ni pilarayaw nga napijutigil lo no tango tit sa katakulugil lo tamakko nga pilaraya kaktamin ni tukimaktit siyo yumot Sibunik sa unik tami. Atula ko yaw yung number 8 katamayagla atula kayo buta ko ano at siya makko nga akay siya kakpo narunayat siya sa mayo na aura tawang ino NTPC kod ikayo katang nang itamak ko akituyutin narunayat siya sa makataon na kulugi takok sa siya katakulugi lupik ko lamano kinaw yan niglo ato katak tunun siya may Amalutaw sibunik sa unik tami kamat siya akong nakulugid. Ako ni Ujukot. Atula ko yung number ta atula ko jibuguta ko ano na siya kamakko ng itaman na kamakko tiliyo ko juti kayangan NTPC ko katamayingin no ta na ministro no na siya kamakko ni pilarakat siya kakakpo tamakko ni nga solo katamayo yung pilarakat sa ngin ni amalo kamakko pilarakat sa kayang narunayak tao siya sa marutik atula ko yung tamakko ano na siya kamakko ng itaman na no ta mitik ko siya kakpo NTPC ko Tema na kamat siya akong nakulugit tamakko ni nga atok tayo kaya kakatak to ni amarot tayo unik kakataklot di balakaleotik ko no tamakko kawis sa ko tayo na yakto kati mayuyo no uki pingaso ani ko kahangat kawis sa kataklot ni minista mo ako yaw luting Atula ko yaw yung 12 katamayagala atula ko yung bunod sa kapamakko nga tilisiga kakpo NTPC katamayiko nginod Akyo maninga ilik ko sila ka naman kay mga yaw siya katakulugit marit siya katakulugit lo ilik ko sa yaw kaya kaktuning atula ko yung bunod sa kapamakko ngini narunayak siya kakpo tusama juti kayo katakayak to ni NTPC kuno amalunod siya may umako talaga yung kuno imak ko kama ko tiliyong na miksana pidyo sa kakto ni kaya man na paknaw to sa mayo ato gay lupilakayak sa lupidyo tigil luwi sa unik sa unik tami Pakuya mga number 14 katamayagala atula ko yung bunod siya gamak ko nga tilisiga kakpo kay makuyaw ng inuta makko ismaliw ko tigayaw wala yulo nalunay tao siya ako nakulugit unik kawin yaminig maligaliw ko no number 15 atula ko yung bunod siya gamak ko nga sakit siya kakpo kik ko pila kayo katang na ang mga te NTPC ko no siya may umakotila kayo ko ng inulo Iman nakaw niya matigayaw siya kataklo ti tamak ko ni nga. Kaya man nalo. Tamak ko kamat siya luting. Atula ko yaw yung number 16 katamayagala atula ko yung wata ko ano na siya gamak ko ngit iman na no nakakasa mayuri. So ako ilaw kita kaya karningin na. Kamak ko tigo na ato agang ni tulok ko takakta limagaya kakluting nang minakatitaw ng pidyo tigil kaya kama ko talaga yun sibunik sa unik kami NTPC kulo tiliyaw luting ma ko talaga kulo nung natsiyang may tamak ko ilaw titaw luting nung natsiyang kapamak ko ngintay man na kanatuin na kama ko talaga ng miksa pidyo takakto ni Atula ko yaw yung 17 katamayagala atula kayo buta ko ano na siya kapamakongin akik siya kang nangin no kikutuin ng naunik kang namuno na ling ni ilaw ng mulo NTPC ko pidyo tigil lugit to kasi kaya ako diksaw si magayak to ni teman na amalo ilaw dito kaya kaksotik tamak ko nang itirik katigot ilaw ko yaw tigil yaw yuning Atula ko yaw yu 18 katamayala atula ko yu na tsaga makong yakime ko ya kakputa makon nga kikutuin ng nok o makutakakita ng mamaligaw yun ni teman na akingid akit siya si makakatakarwang mga ta Amalo akilisi tau kan nakatangil do tikikutuin na itamakko apidyo tikilugit amalo ganun na tsaga makong yakime ko kataklo ti ato agaknik Amaro ta kanuti ka akali kata mga ta number 90 kata medya kala atura kayo no na siya ka pamakuin kauyo sa kaya kamata pila katigit siya kalawang mga ata no naling ninang menakayaw ipijutigid lugit nyo na siya nun la kakta may kiyuta na siya ipijutigid lugit abatingat tako kata medya kala atura kayo no na siya ka pamakung kauyo sa kaya kapo asang inig tako ni nga alas kami ilaw titaw luting Tay matsay na malikaro mga ta pekoyaw si mayuning atula kayo yung number 21 ta kami di at katamaya kala atula kayo na tsaka makong na kami kugiya kakpo akyo manakayang inik kano ito nang inutamak ko nung nalialang naksaw yun ni akituluang ito ni ato kataon na kulugin Atula kayo yung number 22 katamaya kala atula kayo na tsaga makung kami kugiya kakputa ko nung siya makutila kayo kod imakot so atok tao siya kalawang mga ate ilaw dutik tamak ko namin nakaktot akik suwa katalo tilo pero ito ko akik sa mga ito na business kaya yun tayo manakinaw yun atot siya kalawang mga ata number 23 katamaya kala atula kayo no tsaga ba makong kiugiya kakpa atula kayo yun ukiw udluit 120 ani ulawin ni firm like mo malagalewte firm like mo malagalewte kaya ni mo kakti pigakti siya mga tuglak tawlo nga grade like malagalewte mo takuan unika tao sa magyur 4320 brackets 1 katamaya kala no awla tao yung kamakong na kayo peko nga ako tao yun Sibulak solo kalamak tao hanik tiluwi akisok tao kanarlo tilu tagbunga katimago tao balya yun tana na magpok pero yung mga amot nakuha ko man ang mata na magsaktot na magsangitut nakuha ngitut kayo sibok frame like pimalagalerte Kaya may katamayu amaro ukakte pigate chibungan ko isla malagalerte ta na unika 4320 brackets 1 katamaya kala gamma ko awda taon nga unika ang tamago yaw ngin nota ko NTPC ko tamakko pila kayaw siya kulluwi malagalerte kun Pakayo nga na magpok pakayo nga amon nakuha ko malak mata na magsakturugtat na magsangitut
Motion is carried. Committee report 36-20 brackets 1 has received and been adopted by this member from Framelake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move, seconded by the member for Great Slave, that pursuant to Rule 9.4 brackets 5 brackets A, the Government of the Northwest Territories table a comprehensive response to this report, including all recommendations, within 120 days or at the earliest opportunity subsequent to the passage of 120 days. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Framelake. The motion is in order. To the motion. Question has been called. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion is carried. Member from Framelake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, your Standing Committee on Government Operations is pleased to provide its report on the review of Bill 32, an act to amend the Public Service Act No. 2, and commends it to the House.
Member from Framelake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move, seconded by the member for Great Slave, that Committee Report 44-20, brackets 1, Standing Committee on Government Operations report on the review of Bill 32, an act to amend the Public Service Act No. 2, be deemed read and printed and answered in its entirety. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member. The motion is in order. To the motion. Question has been called. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion carried. Member from Framelake.
Mr. Speaker, I move, seconded by the member for Great Slave, that Committee Report 44-20, brackets 1, Standing Committee on Government Operations report on the review of Bill 32, an act to amend the Public Service Act No. 2, be received and adopted by the Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Frame Lake, the motion is in order. To the motion. Question has been called. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? The motion is carried. Committee Report 44-20, brackets 1, has been received and adopted by the Assembly. Is that it? Reports on standing special committee.
Unika katamayala kan naktulo unika takwa katamayala unika tao sa masakita ni tetakay may sukinar lang ng mot. Ukakti sakit siya kumayang umako ni tako ni nga 2026, 2027 lukati tao sa mayukina uyat nunat siya may tako kamako tetakay kupichitigil lukit 2027, 28 milo. Anyway, sakit daw ng kahit ITI ko na minister, kaya na may kakti sakit siya mga mamakaw ni Ukuni nga 2026, 2027, may paknaw tayo sa payunat siya may tamakwa pijutigidlugi 2025, 2026, unikadok tayo sa mayut. Kaya na may sakit daw ng kahit agad mo talaga na mga minister, yok. Ukakti sakit siya mga ukuni makong nig abad mi te pichu te gilduit akaw ta mga tao jud unikat kami ko yaw ningit ta ko unikani tu sakti tao sa kawit ta taman na pichu te gildugo isi kono minister ICC kono mami anak sakit tao ningit te kahit Kuislay mo malagalakte kaya may ukakte sakit siya mata ko titakas na mayon sakit siya magama tamak ko so ano like saving tooth eman na akaw miliyo ko takahatak ningin okay tak may tao jud tagwani magkuktud tayo man nakauliyaw siya mang mata kaya na may sakit ang titakay sakit siya mayung atako niya titakas sa mayuning tamak ko sila asad sa palyan ng ano tako alay pijutigil lugit klitse je tayo man ito tayo yok sakit ang titakay
Motions. Notice of motions, first reading the bills. Minister of Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, I give notice that on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026, I will present Bill 50, the Marine Transportation Corporation Act, to be read for the first time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Tako siya pa mo kalamata ko luwit. Kaya kaya na tako pa kasi mga ako tipid sa luwit. Kaya na may kakte sakit sa mga Tuesday, June 2. Sakit sa niya ka mapikayak sa 51 tamak ko ano na din ni Soro na wakto lang na magsaro pa dito kakto na kaya na may kakte. Kaya kaya na siya pa mo kalamata ko luwit pa kaya site. Siya pa mo kalamata ko na ipikayak site. Dan WCC ko na malagalokte. Pakakte sakit siya kumayo tagba pakayak sa 48 kaya ko teksaita ko naldi ko man dagay ko ikanayak ko nunat siya me kaya namig kaya namig kaya kaya niya subula pa mo ka naman tao niya pakayak site tungilian niyo kalamak tao niya pakayak site Katematuin na lang ni Pico Jackson ng asangin na ilukaw sa karnerlo ni. Kana katemayuyok sa taumit na iksibaw tawlo ni.
I will now call Committee of the Whole.
Katemayuyuin na kaya ko yulak po nga. Katemayuyuk inawik po legmut. Kaya na may sota. Tama, piyari ko malak po nga. Kaya na may sota. Kaya ko yan na may Ate ta ko nako mo lang mata. Tana ay bata ay ba tao yun nang ito ni. Ta ko na masangitut. Tema
Reports of the Committee of the Whole. Member from the Sawtooth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee.
When make sure ta ko katame yesi o ko sa kakang mata number 3 ta ko nga for brackets 1. Saka titaw sa may yulo 48320 brackets 1. Amarut taon piani ko malak mata amaro iksabaw ta ko unika ka jaw yu katame yagalano ang yakta ko luwe. Kaya na make
second.
Tungilia Range Lake Malagaleokti
All those in favor?
Namagsakturutat
All those opposed?
Namagsangitut
All those abstained?
Angingitut
Motion passed.
Kayusiwak.
Reports on the Committee of the Whole.
Tayo magkatamay unikaktaw ningit pingayon no kalmaktaw ningit pakojaksay katamajuteksay titakakti.
Mr. Speaker, the Standing Committee on Economic Development and the Environment will meet at the Rise of House today. Orders of the day for Monday, June 1st, 2026 at 1:30 p.m. Prayer or reflection, minister statements, member statements, returns to oral questions, recognition of visitors in the gallery, acknowledgements, oral questions, returns to written questions, replies to the Commissioner's address, petitions, reports of committees on the review of bills, reports of standing and special committees, tabling of documents, notices of motion, motions, notices of motion for first reading of bills. First reading of bills, Bill 49, Safer Communities and Neighborhoods Act. Second reading of bills, Bill 48, an act to amend the Workers' Compensation Act Number 2. Consideration in Committee of the Whole of bills and other matters, Bill 3-20(1), Bill 41-20(1), Table Document 445-20(1), Table Document 483-20(1), Report of Committee of the Whole, third reading of bills, orders of the day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Clerk, this House stands adjourned until Monday, June 1st, 2026 at 1:30 p.m.